morning, everyone. Wow, what a great crowd. 700 people strong. It's awesome. I'm really happy to be with you all this morning, as is our fabulous Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll, all the members of our team. I am blessed to be able to serve alongside incredible people who are giving of their time and talents to serve in our administration, to the chief and members of the cabinet and all the members of our administration who are here today. Thank you. I just want everybody in this room to know that you absolutely have the very best to work with, as you should, as business leaders in our state. Thank you, Michal, for the introduction and for all the work that Bank of America does. Looking forward to our marathon coming up. But, whether it's the marathon and big events, there are a lot of small events that you're part of in communities around Massachusetts, and we appreciate that. And to Jim, I think we've gotten it more than just down over 10 years. We've been up here. It's funny, yeah, I was AG for a while too. So we've been having conversations over the years on a lot of things. Maybe couldn't have predicted where we'd be 10 years ago, but here we are, and I feel very fortunate to be in a room with all of you. I'm excited to continue the partnership with the Chamber. We've done a lot. We're going to do a lot together, and I know that many of the things that Michal just recounted in terms of our accomplishments are due in no small part to the partnership that we have had with so many in this room. I see leaders from business and our not-for-profit sector, from the state legislature, thank you to my colleagues, from cities and towns, as was noted. And this really is reflective of Team Massachusetts. You know that's something that we've been insufferably trying to drive, but it's done with intention, and I think it is important. It is important that we talk about the teamwork. And I want to start by highlighting a few of our collective wins over the last year. I also think, more importantly, I want to note, I think we've started 2025 strong. And I say that because our new economic development bill, the Mass Leads Act, is making an impact. We reauthorized Massachusetts Life Sciences Initiative, sending a signal to the world that Massachusetts is and will remain the global hub for life sciences. And sure enough, just a few weeks ago, GSK announced that it was moving its R&D teams, 350 jobs and growing, from Maryland to Massachusetts. They know where it's at. And in GSK's own words, they're coming here because we are, quote, the hub for biotech and the pharma industry. And it's the latest in a series of new investments, new facilities, and long-term commitments by life science companies in and coming to our state. We also launched in recent weeks the Climate Tech Initiative. This is an effort to make Massachusetts the global leader in another critical and growing innovation sector. We released last week a 10-year plan for helping startups stay and scale here in Massachusetts. This is a collaboration between our Economic Development Office, led by our fabulous Secretary Yvonne Howe, and the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. We project that this plan alone will create 35,000 jobs, support 1,300 companies, and train 25,000 individuals over the next few years. And these investments are real. I mean, I think we're near the top in terms of VC funding coming into any state in the country for climate technology. And recently, look, we have over in Medford, and good morning to our wonderful Medford mayor, Lithios. This is a company that's using using technology to extract lithium from plentiful, low-cost sources to power batteries. And Waltham, AeroShield Materials, is bringing us high-tech, energy-efficient windows. Sublime Systems is moving forward with its plan. It did the R&D right here, and it's moving forward with its plan to open its plant to make carbon-free cement out in Holyoke in a former paper mill site. And I could go on, but needless to say, there are companies with big solutions needed for this moment worldwide that are doing business and thriving here in Massachusetts. We want to see that continue. AI. I announced earlier a $100 million AI hub. It is now up and running. This month, we launched the AI Models Innovation Challenge, which offers grants that will accelerate scientific breakthroughs, create new commercial applications, or provide public benefits. It's really a force multiplier for innovation, and already our AI leadership is growing. Kiara Computing in Boston just raised, I'm told, a big round of funding to lead quantum computing, which is another technology that drives AI. So I'm excited about that. We're also eager, as Jim said, to make it easier to do business in our state. And that's the purpose of the Business Front Door. It's an online concierge service for starting and growing a business in our state. If you need help with permits, you can get it. If you're getting recruited by other states, we want to know about it. We want to know about it, and we want to find out what you're being offered and what we can do to match that and better that. You can go online and find information about workforce training for your company, financing vehicles, potential sites for expansion in our state, and so much more. And we're going to continue to work on this and add to it, but there should be resources at your table, mass.gov/BFD, because we want every business staying in Massachusetts, growing in Massachusetts, and we want to attract more businesses to Massachusetts. Housing. You know that probably the top two things our administration has focused on, in addition to getting that tax cut done for the first time in 20 years, housing and transportation. These are the pillars. These are the pillars for quality of life for our residents. I think they're the pillars for success for economic growth and development in our state. So we've hit milestones in housing, and I just want to report back. This has been about ramping up production. We got to work early with Ed Augustus and his team, Affordable Homes Act, $5 billion injection into the economy to bring online more homes. Just this month, with accessory dwelling units now a right, they're legal as a right in communities, contractors are telling us they're getting calls every single day from people who want ADUs and need these contractors to build ADUs. So we're really excited about what we're seeing there. I also, as you know, through the work that we did, we had a tax package out there that helped to expand in 1 year alone pipeline for market rate workforce housing units in gateway cities by 600%. 1 year, that's a big, big number. This month, we just invested, this is money going out right now, $158 million in affordable housing statewide, tons of developments in and around the state. And contrary to sometimes how it's covered, 119 towns, okay, cities and towns, the vast majority have said yes to new housing, and with good reason, because the fate of each one of our 351 cities and towns and the economic development and growth potential for our state depends on us saying yes to housing. I couldn't be more clear or explicit about that. So those who continue to resist, you're missing the moment. And as a result, your residents, your businesses are going to miss the moment, and our state is going to suffer. It's the single reason why people are finding reasons to leave the state. Housing's too expensive. We've got to build more of it. And our administration has offered up numerous ways to do that. I sat with some of you, Paul, were you there a couple weeks ago? Our Unlocking Housing Commission, okay? We set to work, we gave everybody a timeline, and we said, come back to us with what we can do. And now we've got a whole menu of things that we can be doing. It's not one size fits all to bring more housing online. The other thing I thought was important, and some of you who lead companies do this all the time, I got to know what we're dealing with, okay? So I asked my team to report back on how many housing units we actually need to build. When I became governor, I heard about the shortage of housing, but we didn't have an exact figure on it. So now we actually have, for the first time ever in state's history, a statewide housing plan. It shows by region, by community, just how many more housing units we need to bring online. And I think that's incredibly important for planning. And yes, the number is big. 220,000 homes we need to bring online in the next 10 years. But I'll say this, that we have to do it. It's an ambitious number, but we don't have an alternative. This is what we have to do. And now we have the roadmap that we need. And you know, these are the homes that we all talk about needing for our seniors, for our young people, for families, for recent graduates, for the talent you want to recruit to Massachusetts. Working parents also need childcare. They also need childcare, so we have bucked the national trend by actually increasing access to quality, affordable care. We're the only state to fully replace lost federal investments by adding 45,000 childcare seats since the pandemic. Other states have seen childcare seats drop. We have not only continued that, we've actually increased that. And I understand, in talking with so many of you, the business imperative of making sure that working parents have access to care. I know that right now, the work that we have done has enabled thousands more to go to work to support their families and fill your open jobs. This year, our tax cut package is finally in full effect. Massachusetts families now get the most generous child and family tax credit in the country. We also have a lower short-term capital gains tax than we did 2 years ago, a lower estate tax than we had 2 years ago, and more tax advantages for apprenticeship, employee benefits, and housing construction than we did 2 years ago. Tax cuts were the first thing that we promised and the first thing that we delivered. Our schools. How many of you had little ones go off, or not so little ones go off this morning, right? Yes, I did too. You know, our schools, education's been a calling card in this state. It's home to the first school in the country, first college, first public library. This year, we reclaimed our #1 place in the nation's report card across all 4 categories of math and reading. This is for the first time in 8 years. For the first time in 8 years. And just yesterday, we retained our #1 ranking for advanced placement exam achievement by public school students. These scores show that Massachusetts schools are the best in the nation. They also show that we have work to do, particularly because of what happened during the pandemic. But I know, and I want you to hear this from me, we are so committed to establishing high statewide graduation standards through this Council of Stakeholders that Secretary Pat Tutwiler has convened. It's why our budget proposes 3,000 new career and technical education slots in high schools that will prepare students better for success in the jobs of today and tomorrow. We've really leaned into literacy, because that's been an area where nationally we've seen numbers drop off, but not in Massachusetts. We are leaning in to literacy and injecting funding so that all schools will benefit from high-quality reading instruction in districts around the state. And as a result of our affordability agenda, enrollment at our public colleges is up for the first time in over a decade. All of this progress continues to earn us national recognition. This year, we've once again been ranked the state with the best schools, the best state to raise a family, the best state for working moms and working dads. The headlines may be dominated by what's going on in Washington, but I don't want us to lose sight of what we have going for us here in Massachusetts. And I don't want us to lose sight of the incredible competitive strengths that we have. We're a model of success, and we'll continue to show the way forward by focusing on the needs of people and businesses in our state. So let me get to my priorities. My priorities: growing our economy, getting more people access to good jobs, building homes that our residents, our workforce can afford, making sure that our schools are the best in the country and prepare our students for the world that we're in. It's why we've proposed increasing vocational seats and career innovation pathways in our high schools that match programming with jobs and careers that you all are looking to see filled. And working together to lower the cost on everything, from healthcare to housing to energy. Those are my priorities as your governor that I want to drive every day. Grow our economy, support businesses, grow jobs, build a ton of housing to bring down rents, to bring down costs, keep people in the state, make sure that our schools are at the top and remain at the top, and make sure that we're investing in the right kind of educational programming that's going to help us really soar here in Massachusetts. And the whole time, don't clap because this is a really important right now part, lowering costs, okay? Lowering costs. I am challenged by it. You all are challenged by it in your companies. But I want you to know, as a team, we are laser focused on how we can lower costs. And I talked about housing, healthcare is a challenge, and energy. But we've got to work to continue to tackle these things head on. On energy especially, look, I know the bills. I get them myself, and I know that many families and businesses have been really shocked and hurt by the spike in the cost of natural gas. I'll say this, I just came from a governor's meeting. Everybody around the country, and especially, the Mid-Atlantic on up, is experiencing this. Costs are impacting everyone right now, and this is not the time for big sudden increases. It's unacceptable, and that's why I demanded that DPU take action to lower utility bills. Now, the utilities have offered to spread the pain over the course of the year, but that's not good enough. And it's why I've told the DPU to right now, in this moment, explore every option, every action that we can take to provide relief in this moment that we are in. We really need to see real action. We need to see it now. We also need to plan so that it doesn't happen again. And for that purpose, my administration, led by our fabulous Secretary Rebecca Tepper, will be filing an energy affordability and independence bill shortly. And at the same time, looking at the things that we can do through executive authority, roll out an energy affordability agenda. This legislation, this executive action, hopefully will be steps that will bring down some of the costs for families and businesses, and they will jumpstart homegrown clean energy generation, which is the key to protecting against future volatility and price spikes. So we're going to do this in the coming weeks. We'll be reaching out to so many of you for input, and we hope your engagement and support. And I mean it, I want to work together on this. Massachusetts will be stronger. We will be more affordable when we can better rely on ourselves for energy. And I don't want to be tied to costly, volatile fuels that spike every winter and ship dollars out of our state. I'm also focused on upgrading our transportation infrastructure to be more modern, more dependable, and good for our economy. I want to say more about transportation because I think we really are at an important turning point in our state. When we took office 2 years ago, our transportation infrastructure was in really rough shape. After years of neglect, dozens of bridges around the state were just closed. Roads are full of potholes, sidewalks cracked, public transit in places was barely moving. It was frustrating for everyone, and it wasn't going to keep our economy competitive. We have been a team, Kim and I, that are not interested in kicking the can down the road. And sometimes we get kicked for it because there's easier paths and ways to play things and massage things. But I'm not interested in that. I'm not. And we may make some calls that people disagree with. Oh God, I do that every day. We may make some calls and some judgments that we may need to revisit. But as a leader, I think that's what you want. You want somebody who's open to new ideas. You want somebody who's not going to be so dogmatic that if we need to peel and go in a different direction, we're not afraid to do that. But we're also not afraid to say, this is where I think we need to chart the course, informed by conversation, informed by input. But you need leadership, okay? And so we're going to act, and we're going to do things to tackle some of the tough challenges. And I think transportation has to be right up there at the top. Now, we took a new approach at the T, and I'm grateful to GM Eng for his incredible leadership. I said to Phil, you hire who you want. You bring in your management team and set them to work. I also recognize we didn't have the workforce. So that's why we said go ahead and fill 1,500 open jobs. And as a result, Phil and his team fixed the tracks. They eliminated slow zones for the first time in over 20 years. And that's an example. That's an example, of what we can do in government. We took a new approach to federal funds and secured $9 billion for our state. Now major projects like the Cape Cod bridges are moving forward. We took a new approach to local aid and regional transit authorities, and now roads and bridges across our state are seeing improvement. Ultimately, we're changing something fundamental about transportation in Massachusetts. And for the first time in a long time, we are seeing the seeds of trust in government on this issue. And I want to build on that with the teams every single day so that you have, and we are building the system that this state deserves. And to do that, we had to take a new approach to finance. And I want to thank Jim Rooney in particular, once again, for his leadership on that, and all the leaders who serve with Jim on our transportation funding task force. I also want to thank Secretary Gorkowitz and Secretary Tibbetts-Nutt for their leadership. But as Jim knows, importantly, our plan doesn't depend on new taxes, okay? It depends on smart fiscal management. By using fair share revenues that have come in the door and leveraging them to access greater capital, we can invest $8 billion over the next 10 years in transportation around the state. We'll put the entire system on stable financial footing. This will mean more roads repaired, more bridges, large and small, fully open, so that traffic is moving again. You don't have to do these needless detours. Local roads, sidewalks in better shape, and a modern MBTA with reliable subways, buses, and commuter rail trains. We know that these investments, $8 billion over 10 years, that's also 140,000 jobs. This is going to improve quality of life, it will save time, which saves money, and it will get workers to work, goods to market, and our economy will grow. We'll be working with the legislature to make this vision a reality, and I urge you, if you agree that investing in transportation and transforming transportation infrastructure in our state is good for you, good for business, good for your employees, good for residents, then I ask you to join with me in letting our elected officials know that this is a priority. And together we will get this done. Now, my approach to governing hasn't changed. I'm focused on delivering for the people of this state. And I'm proud to say that the things that we did last year in the legislative session, from tax cuts to economic development, to housing, to cost-free community college, all got done with bipartisan support, all of it. It's an approach I wish we could see in Washington, but that seems long gone at this stage. So Here's my approach to the new federal administration. Look, I've said at the outset, and I was in DC last week, I will work with the administration wherever we can to benefit the residents of Massachusetts, our economy, drive us forward. I've also said that I am laser focused on doing my job and exercising what's within my control to deliver results for people in our state. We're going to continue that. But when the Trump administration or Elon Musk propose things that harm our state, I will stand up. Massachusetts, we need to stay true. Because here's the thing. You know, for us, and I think it does bear underscoring, just remember, like, who we are, that's why we succeed. All those things I talked about, the fact that we invest in education, we invest in healthcare. Think about Romney Care, the precursor to the ACA. You know, there are certain things that our state has believed in and values that we've lived by. And they're part of what makes us successful. They're what has put Massachusetts on the map. Massachusetts just didn't become the global hub for life sciences overnight. It happened because of certainly financial investment, both risk taken by entrepreneurs and business, an infusion of some state funding, and also a basic foundational, scenario here that has enabled and supported that kind of growth. So let's not forget who we are. Let's not forget how we got here. And let's not lose that as we have to prioritize and keep our eye on the ball in terms of what is going to make us successful. We're the state that leads in talent and innovation because we invest in our schools and in our students. That's not going to change as long as I stand here before you as governor. We're a state that knows that women and people of color are a strength, not a flaw. And we're going to continue, and we're not going to back down on that. We're going to embrace diversity because it improves outcomes. It makes us more competitive, not less. In Massachusetts, we also believe that women should get to make healthcare decisions for themselves, not the government. So when I think about the need to stand up to confront, to point out things that are very, very bad for our state, for residents, for businesses, for the economy, I think about the things that are happening that are only going to raise our costs, that are going to cost us jobs. There's one thing that I'm particularly focused on right now. Yesterday, I happened to convene leaders of our fabulous universities and research institutions, teaching hospitals, life science companies. Boy, am I proud to be governor of the state that leads the world in advancing cures and treatments. It happens because research performed at our hospitals and our universities fuel innovative ideas, successful companies, and tens of thousands of jobs. And it happens because Massachusetts leads the country in NIH funding per capita. Now, this is a big deal for our state, okay? Because you may not be a life sciences company, but your business is impacted. Every business, every resident is impacted by what happens in life sciences. So I want to share with you the current state of play. Right now, Donald Trump and Elon Musk have effectively stopped NIH funding. I know there's a court order out there, but I also know that notwithstanding that court order, those funds are not flowing. And the immediate impact to our institutions is funding to the tune of billions of dollars. You know that, it's been reported, well over $3.5 billion. Understand, though, that there is a much deeper hit to our entire economy, because for every dollar invested in life sciences in our state, it generates 2 to 3 additional dollars in economic activity. And let me be more precise, every dollar in research in our state generates 2 to 3 additional dollars in economic activity. That means that every dollar cut is a loss of $2 to $3 in economic activity. Now, all kinds of companies and organizations are going to feel it. Think about all the people who make the equipment that goes into those labs. We got companies all around the state making big parts, little parts, all sorts of stuff, driving those parts, right, delivering them to labs and research places all over the state. They're going to take a hit. How many lawyers? I still love lawyers. Okay, what's going to happen to IP practice? What's going to happen to law firm practice? What's going to happen to all the professional services who work with research and universities and life science companies? How about our real estate friends? I've already seen it, the construction trades. Things are just stopped. Banks that provide financing, right? So I'm trying to sort of explain why this is an issue that we should all care desperately about. And, you know, of course we care about it. The reality is right now there are people who are in clinical trials in Massachusetts who are not receiving care. And that's not unique to Massachusetts. That's actually happened around the country. I don't know if anybody has a mama or dad or a relative or somebody in a clinical trial right now, but that's what's happening. So the harm to patients is devastating. And, you know, I'm not even touching that, right? The cruelty of taking away a cure if your child gets cancer, or if your parent develops Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. And so much of it we're on the cusp of right here in Massachusetts because of who we are. But just thinking about the impact on our prosperity and economic growth is devastating. Already, universities here are halting enrollment of new graduate students, of new PhD students. That's the pipeline of future scientists. It's also the pipeline of our entrepreneurs. Whether you're in the defense-related industry or life sciences, these are people who seed so much economic development here and, frankly, around the country. We have, we're seeing those cuts and those cutbacks. And at the end of the day, of course, the only one who is winning from this is China. China is actively recruiting some of our faculty right now in this moment, to go to China to do this work. So that's what's going on. I just wanted everybody to understand that one example and why it's so important that we speak up, speak to members of Congress, and not let this happen for the sake of our state and for the sake of America's own competitive advantage in this space. That's not the only threat aimed at our economy right now. Some of you may have seen the budget that House Congressional Republicans came out with yesterday. We took a look at it as a team, just so you know. If that were to be passed in our state alone, 2 million residents, including 700,000 children and 200,000 seniors, would lose health care. Healthcare costs would double for more than 300,000 residents who use the Health Connector marketplace. And 1.2 million kids and families who rely on food assistance would have that taken away at a time when grocery prices are high and only getting higher. So these kinds of cuts are immense. They're going to cause unnecessary suffering. And I just asked to this room, who do you think is going to pay for that? What's going to happen to health care premiums? What's going to happen to our health care system, health plans, and all the workers and businesses who depend on that when that federal funding goes away? So no one is immune or unaffected by these impacts. At this critical moment, I ask you for your help. I ask you for your willingness to be able to speak up and get out, to show that if something is harmful to you, to your business, to employees, to this economy, that you talk about that you explain that, and that you work with me to protect everyday Americans and protect our businesses. The strength of this great state, Massachusetts, has always been our ability to come together. I was in DC last week, as you may have read, for the National Governors Meeting, and I feel so fortunate that listening to some of my colleagues and understanding their experiences, I'm so fortunate I get to return to this great state where we work together, the very best in leadership, from business, not-for-profit, academe, government, working together to try to deliver, to get things done. We don't agree on everything, nor should we, okay? But one thing I think we always try to roll with, and we need to do this now more so than ever, to protect Massachusetts and all that you guys value and your employees and the work that you do. We've got to work together, and that means standing together. So I thank you for your time this morning, but I really believe that this can be a moment, and we're on the eve of a celebration of something pretty great here, 250 years ago. So the irony is not lost on me, but I think we're in a moment where we can really show how Massachusetts shines. It is not going to be easy. It will require steadiness. It will require resolve. It's going to require us, particularly in government, to think about and do things differently. But this moment necessitates it, okay? So with that, again, I thank you for the opportunity to spend some time with you this morning.